Hi everyone and welcome to our Army Reserves Facebook Live Q&A. Today we're live here at Derwent Barracks in Hobart. My name's Meg and I'm joined today by 3 Army Reservists who are here to answer all of your questions. So make sure you submit them now, but I might get you guys to introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name's Amy. I'm a metalsmith in the Army Reserves and I've been in for 7 years.
Fabulous.
Hi, my name is Josh. I'm an officer cadet and I've just started my 2nd year of training.
Hi, I'm Rowan. I'm an infantry soldier in the reserves and I've been in for about 8 years now.
Great. Okay, well guys, please send through your questions so we can get these guys to answer them. But I'm going to go ahead with the first one. What inspired you guys to join the Army Reserves, Amy?
So I've always wanted to be in the Army, but timing's never happened. And so it was only when I moved back to Hobart when I was 24 that I was able to pursue a career within defence.
Yeah, great. Josh?
Yeah, like Amy, it was something I always wanted to do and then never did. I thought back then I'd have to move outside of Tasmania, which at the time I didn't want to do. So I focused on my civilian career, and it's only more recently that I've thought, wow, I can actually do this and stay here and have a great time doing it.
Yeah, great. Ron?
I've, like a lot of Australians, I have a pretty strong military background in my family, but I personally had never really thought about it until one of my friends said he was joining, and I just went along to a session, see what it was all about with him, and joined, and 8 years later I'm still in. It's been great, yeah.
Great. Okay, well, can you guys take us through what you do within your civilian roles? Rowan, you first.
So I'm a bank officer with the Commonwealth Bank, and at the same time I'm studying a finance degree, so I find that the Army really adds a lot to both of those that I'm doing at the moment, yeah.
I'm a chartered accountant with BDO, so for me it adds a lot of contrast and diversity to my civilian career. It's really good.
And I work at UTAS and also a sports shop.
Yeah, great. And do you guys find that your employers are really supportive of your roles within the Army Reserves?
It can, obviously it can be hard, but generally, if you can make it work. So my employer, BDO, is fantastic. And we just juggle it around deadlines and priorities to make it all fit in.
Yeah, great.
The great thing about the reserves is you're given lots of notice for activities that are coming up, and because of that you're able to plan like 6-8 months, a year ahead with your employer to make sure that you can work out something that does work. So even if there are important deadlines, there's always other opportunities to do courses. Courses are usually run a couple of times a year, so if it doesn't necessarily work on one day, you can always do it another day as well. Yeah, exactly.
Great. Okay, well guys, keep sending through your questions, but we've already got a couple. Jono's asked, can you be a reservist while studying at unis? And I think that's a big yes, as Rowan has been doing it. But how do you find juggling your university degree, a full-time job, and then the reserves on top of that?
Yeah, so at the moment it is a pretty big load. So the great thing is the flexibility is there for me to do a bit less work during the semesters, a bit less army work, and then during the time where I'm not studying, I can really pick that up and do a lot. When I was studying, well, I've been studying for a couple of years, and before I was working full-time, I had a part-time job. I was delivering pizzas for Domino's, which I enjoyed being a soldier a lot more than that, I can tell you. But I found that having the army there was a great break from, you finish the semester, you line up a 2-week course, and you go away and you just get out and do something different for 6 months, or for 6 weeks or something like that, in the middle of the semester break, which has been great. Yeah,
great. Before we head into a few more questions, I might get you guys to go through what your job roles within the Army Reserves are. I might start with you, Amy.
So I'm a metalsmith within the workshop, which is just a welder. So we weld, fix things, and then also maintain all of the equipment within the workshop and the equipment that other sections have, so trucks and anything in the Q store.
Yeah, great.
So at the moment I'm an officer cadet, which means I'm in training to become a lieutenant.
And Rowan?
So I'm an infantry soldier, which means basically I'm the guy that is in the bush with the rifle. We do a lot of training that involves dealing with locals and just doing whatever jobs that the army requires to be done. We're usually there's the most of us around, and a lot of other groups support us to make sure that we're doing the jobs that need to be done.
Yeah, great. So we'll get stuck into some more questions. Peter's asked one, can you join the reserves while you're still in school, even if you are the minimum age? So you are the right person, Rowan. All the questions are going to Rowan.
So I actually joined the Army halfway through year 11. So I was just turned 17 when I enlisted. I did have to wait. My parents told me I couldn't take a month off, over a month off college to go, so I had to wait. But it was great. They actually offer one over summer, so it was from the start of January to the to February, and it was great because I was away during the school break, and I didn't miss any college time at all. And in fact, one of the things that did happen when I got back was obviously when you're at Kapooka, you spend a lot of time marching around, and I got back to school and got off the bus and immediately started marching across the across the school. So it's just one of those things you really need to be. It was definitely a great experience doing it between year 11 and 12.
Yeah, and how did you find it being 17 and going through all of that at that age? Did you find it?
I was definitely
really
challenging, but definitely worth it as well. Yeah. I found that the growth in confidence and in myself that I experienced during that time was immeasurable. It's almost like to sound like cliche, it's almost like you leave as a kid and you come back as more of an adult, much more than your 18th birthday feels like a milestone. Yeah,
great. So Lauren's asked, is the physical aspect of training really difficult, or is it fairly manageable? Amy?
It's manageable, but it's also difficult. You push yourself, you push your limits.
Yeah.
But if you're fit and you're healthy, it's manageable.
Yeah. And same for you guys?
Yeah, I completely agree. Obviously, there's a certain level of fitness you have to join the Army. But you're getting paid to keep fit, which is fantastic when you think about it, compared to all your friends who are probably not. And as Amy said, the fitter you are, the easier it becomes, and it's really not such an issue once you get on top of it.
Yeah. And Habib has also asked how fit do you have to be? And for the fitness requirements, it's the same for part-time as full-time. So jump on the website, Habib, and you'll be able to find the entry requirements on there. So Nath has asked, how intense was the training? All three of you went through Kapooka. Army officers do go through Kapooka for their first module. How did you find training? Was it as scary and difficult and overwhelming as everyone says it is at Kapooka, or did you find it okay?
It's definitely difficult, but it's achievable. Mm-hmm. When you finished, you look back and you don't even imagine how you could have achieved it. Mm-hmm. But I guess it's there and it's designed to push you so that you grow.
Yeah.
Because if you don't go outside your comfort zone, you don't grow.
Yeah.
It is certainly a shock. I remember when the bus pulled up, and I was like, wow, there's already people yelling at me. I haven't even got off the bus yet. And the first morning, you're told what to do and how much time you have to do it, which is not much. I think this is impossible, and it is. And you don't get it done, you get yelled at some more. But it is achievable. And like Amy says, when you complete it, you're like, wow, I actually did that, and you feel a real sense of achievement. When you're there, there's hard moments, but it's all worth it in the end.
Yeah, they definitely set you up to succeed. There's nothing there that's designed to break you or to make you fail. It's all designed to be achievable as long as you put the effort in and you really think about what you're doing. And there's things in the third or fourth or fifth week of Kapooka, there's things, you look back at mistakes you made in the first week or the second week and you go, oh, how did I make those mistakes? That's so simple now, you know? Having your socks pulled up to the right height and things that are all just little things to make sure that you have that attention to detail that's really important. And then just relying on your team as well and the people you stay with. I've still got friends, 8 years later, I've still got friends that I did Kapooka with, so it's definitely something that when you work together you can really get a lot out of it.
Yeah, great. And just sticking with the training questions, Lachlan has asked, do I have to take 35 days off for basic training, or is it similar to the ongoing employment training? So, yes.
Yes, you do need to do that in one block.
Yeah. Excellent. So keep your questions coming in, guys, but we do have some more questions. We've got one from Richard. Beyond the Defence Jobs website, where can I find out more information about specific reserve roles? So we've got a lot of different ways that you can find out more information. We hold information sessions at our Defence Force recruiting centres across the country. So they're up on the Facebook page, and there's lots of content on the Facebook page as well as local events in your area. So jump on our Defence Jobs Australia Facebook page and you'll be able to find out more about it. So Tommy has asked, how long do I have to serve for in the Army Reserves?
There's no minimum requirement.
Yep.
Or no maximum requirement either.
Yep.
So if you go to Kapooka and even if before you go to Kapooka, if you sign up and you enlist and then you do a couple of Tuesday nights and you think, oh, actually this really isn't for me, this isn't what I thought it was, then you don't need to continue. You don't need to go to Kapooka. If you get to Kapooka and you don't like it, you don't have to finish Kapooka. And it didn't happen on my course, but I have heard of people deciding during Kapooka that it wasn't for them. But I think I've heard that's pretty rare. And even when they get back, they realise that it might not be what they're expecting it to be, and they don't have to start working once they've finished Kapooka either. So, and that's what makes it great, because you've got a bunch of people that want to be there because they want to be there. It's almost like being part of a sporting team in a way where you're really committed with the people that you're with, and everyone enjoys being there. You don't have anyone kicking their toes going, oh, I'm stuck here because of X or because of Y. They all want to be there, which is great.
Yeah. But if it works out that it's not for you, there's no obligation to stay.
Yeah, which is a difference between Army Reserves and full-time Army. There is a minimum period of service for full-time roles. Great, so Nerese has asked, can soldiers transfer to become officers?
Yes.
Yeah. Case-by-case basis on what the requirements are and what roles are available, but it is a possibility.
Yeah, one of my really good friends has actually just gone through that process. It didn't take all that long. Really good soldier, so he's now alongside Josh, which is great.
Yep. Great. So Matt has asked, do you have to have a full-time job to apply for the Army Reserves?
No. So when I applied for the Army Reserves, I did not have a job.
Yeah.
Great.
You find that in every unit you'll come across some soldiers that it's their primary work, and they'll hit their maximum days they can do each year, and I remember when I was first started, it was my primary source of income, and I was in and out of the state quite frequently because I wanted to, because I was choosing to, and it was quite good. You make a fair bit of money in doing that, and it's all tax free, which is great as well.
Yeah. Fabulous. So we're going to head back to the training because there's been a few more questions on it. So Janice has asked, how long is training at Kapooka as a reservist? So it's the 35 days. Shelley's asked, do you join your unit for parades before training at Kapooka?
Yes.
Yeah. So depending on the size of the unit, you might go directly to the qualified guys, or sometimes the units have a separate platoon or a separate group of people who are pre-Kapooka, and they do specialised training specifically for specifically for Kapooka. They might do some navigation and some first aid and roll through that sort of training to make sure that they're as set up for Kapooka as possible before they go.
Yep, great. And Adam's asked, have you guys made good friends in the reserves?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of my best friends have all come through my time in being with the reserves. I think it's that what you mentioned before about everyone wants to be here and they're like-minded. It's a great place to meet new friends. 3 out of my 4 groomsmen were all serving soldiers with me. The only exception was my brother.
Well, that's fair. Yeah. Great. So Emma's asked a really great question. Being a welder, did you need any previous experience, or was everything taught in the reserves? And we were actually lucky enough to spend some time with Amy. Ingie had some questions on exactly that, so we might cut to that footage now.
Hi guys, I'm here with Amy and we're at 2FSB, which is a workshop area. So Amy, can you tell us how you became trade qualified as a metalsmith in the Army Reserves prior to joining?
Sure. So to be a metalsmith in the Army Reserve, you need to be pre-qualified. So prior to joining the Army Reserves, I did an apprenticeship underground. So I was on a mine site and I undertook my 4-year apprenticeship and then continued to work there for another 2 years before I had a baby.
Oh, that's great. And so what is your employment training then involved, given that you had that prior training?
So my initial employment training to become a reservist, a metalsmith reservist, was I had to do 2 2-week courses. So my first block was basic welds, flat welds, vertical welds and overhead welds. And then the second block was more fitting and turning, fiberglass and oxy welding.
Great, so you're basically just brushing up on your skills that you've already got.
Just making sure that we're up to Army standards.
Okay, great. And then can you tell us how you balance your day-to-day life with the Army Reserves?
Sure. So I'm lucky enough to have supportive family and friends, and so here we parade every Wednesday night, one weekend a month, and then also there's a 2-week training block throughout the year. It's not necessary, we don't have to do it, but if we choose to, we can. I also have another 2 jobs, and
Wow.
I'm able to balance it all with the help of my family and friends.
And so here we are at the workshops area. Can you tell us what you would typically do on a Wednesday night?
So on a Wednesday night we'd come in, we'd do roll call, we'd do a formal parade, and then we'd break away to our different sections. So there's a general engineering section, a vehicle section, and a recovery section. We'd go to our section heads and ask if there was any tasks for us to do. Sometimes there might be a technical inspection for us to do, and that would be just on a piece of equipment like this one here. It would be visually inspecting it, making sure that it works the way it's supposed to work, that all the stickers are in date.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amy.
Great. So, Amy, I've got a bit of a follow-up question. In regards to qualifications, do all roles within the Army Reserves require one?
So not all roles within Army Reserves require that you're pre-qualified. There's only certain roles, so think of technical trades, so electrician, welders, vehicle mechanics, but there are a lot of other roles within Reserves that don't require you to be pre-qualified, and that once you join you will be trained.
Yeah. And if you want to find out more on what requirements are there for a particular role, once again, just jump on the Defence Jobs website to find out more about those requirements. But we've got a question here from Zach. If you join the Army Reserves, do you get the option of getting deployed, or is that up to the unit you're with?
So the way it works is you nominate for deployments, and it's done on a merit basis. So usually the soldiers that are the most committed to the job and also the most capable are usually the guys that get called up first. I've been deployed previously, and it's a very competitive process, and I was actually the first waiting member to deploy, because there was even a waiting list inside the unit of guys to actually deploy. So it was quite competitive to actually go, because most people who join the reserves want to deploy. You've got some people, often like Amy's case, where not currently able to deploy due to family commitments, but myself as a 21-year-old male, I was very keen to get out there and do it. It was great.
Yeah. So, Amy, you were presented the option.
So I was presented the option to deploy, and I have numerous times, but because of my situation with myself and my daughter, I'm unable to. But there's no obligation to, and there's no pressure to. If you can't, you can't, but the options are there if you would like to.
Yeah, great. So Jimbo's asked a question, not to be negative, but I've heard that full-time ADF personnel don't regard reservists highly. From your personal experiences, do you find that full-time ADF personnel treat you differently? Very good question, Jimbo.
That's a good question. So in regards to that question, sometimes there's a bit of rivalry between the two groups, like any group. You do get that, but when they see the capability that we have, and especially as the reserves moves forward and becomes more interlinked with the full-time army, they're finding that we can slot in quite well into their units, and we do have those skills. And something that a lot of the full-time guys have mentioned to me is they're asking about what I do on, they call it Civvy Street, what they do in the civilian world, because they're quite interested in what we do and that sort of thing, which is great. And also, as our skills increase, as the reserve skills increase, we also find ourselves full-timers coming over to us and saying, "Oh, I've heard this about chocos," they call us, the reservists, they call us that. But it's we definitely can show them that we're committed, we're good at our jobs, and we're fit, and we're capable of doing it.
Yeah, great. So Annalise has asked, can you do something completely different to your civilian job? E.g., if you are an engineer, can you still be something like a medic and be trained while in the reserve? So do you have to do a job that you do in the civilian streets in the Army Reserves?
No.
No, not at all. So for me, I'm an accountant. That's not really always transferable to being in the Army at all, which is the beauty of it. I guess some roles like a medic will need certain qualifications, whether the Army can train you or not. But certainly I think there's a lot of reservists who want something different out of their military career and their civilian careers.
Yeah, I work obviously in a bank, and I couldn't think of anything that I want to do less than deal with the Army's money. But definitely getting out there on the ground and sleeping under the stars and learning how to shoot rifles and stuff and other weapon systems is great. I really enjoy that side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, your position as an infantry soldier probably doesn't have a comparable civilian one.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. No.
Yes. Great. So June has asked, what are the health requirements? Can I do something that does not require to be extremely fit? So do you guys think you can answer that one? There's obviously the fitness requirements that everyone needs to pass, which are on the website. But do you guys think everyone's able to build that fitness level?
I think, yeah, as long as you can hit the basic requirement, there's no reason why you can't do a job. Obviously, there's some jobs like infantry soldier or officer that require a higher level of fitness than some other roles. But there's always jobs for different people as long as they meet those minimum standards.
Building on that, the beauty is when you get to Kapooka, they assume that you just have that base level, and they'll build you up over time to be fitter. So certainly there's different roles that require different levels of fitness, but at the same time, the Army knows that and will help you get there.
Yeah, but you're still needing to meet those minimum fitness requirements. And we also have an ADF Active app that you can find on our website, so that'll help you train up to those minimum standards. So jump on the website and check that out. Let me find some more. So Cameron's asked, can you go to the Army Reserves after serving in a full-time Army position?
Yes.
You can.
Yeah.
Yep. So you can transfer. And once again, that's on a case-by-case basis on if positions are available.
And it goes the other way also. You can be a reservist and transfer across to the regular Army.
Yeah. Great. Lots of Kapooka questions. Daniel asked, what would you recommend studying before going to Kapooka? Do you have any tips or...
The main thing's fitness. But then once you get to the unit, they will teach you nav and other bits and pieces that you require. But to get to Kapooka outside before you enlist is fitness.
Yeah. And be prepared to be flexible and adaptable. So you will be challenged and made uncomfortable. And just be prepared for that, really, and just expect it.
Yeah.
I also heard they don't let you have coffee. So should they go on a bit of a detox before going?
I drink a bit of coffee.
You drink coffee? Okay, it was a lie. Don't
Coffee
listen to
every
it.
morning at
Coffee
breakfast.
There you go, I was lied to. Okay, that's great. So Tasha has asked, how often are you given the opportunity to volunteer in being deployed overseas rather than compulsory as a full-time soldier? So we sort of went through that, but I guess how often do those opportunities arise?
It depends on which unit, and it's a bigger picture than just you get to choose when a trip's up. There's a lot going on above you that different units will get different trips at different times, but there's usually, in my unit, there's usually an opportunity at least once a year, maybe twice a year to go if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will apply for one of those, maybe not both if they don't want to be out of home for a year or more, but there's definitely plenty of opportunities at the moment to go on deployments and do different deployments. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. I have a question in regards to parading. Can you guys take us through a bit on what that entails? You know, how long are you parading for each week, and what are sort of the day-to-day duties of parading? Josh, I'll go to you.
It's different depending on what role and position you have in the Army Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
So for me personally, we parade on Tuesday nights.
Yep.
That's either from 7 till 10 p.m, or there's the option to come in from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. some nights as well. When we get there, we do a formal parade, like a roll call.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have some administration time where we square away usual admin papers like every other job has.
Mm-hmm.
And then because I'm in training, the rest of our night is generally training. So whether that's weapons, navigation, command, orders, all those sort of things, is instructor training for the rest of the night, and then we go home.
Okay. And is that similar for yourself?
Pretty much similar for myself also.
Yeah. And you, Rowan?
Yeah, exactly. Lots of, you might do a physical training session at the start of the night, and then go into some just general training. Occasionally there's jobs that need to be done. You might be sorting out some of the equipment that you took out on the previous weekend.
Mm-hmm.
You might be cleaning some rifles, which is everyone's favourite job, and stuff like that. But it's definitely work that needs to be done to make sure that you can keep your unit in good order.
Great. So James has asked a good question. I'm 37 years old. can I still be a part of the reserves?
Definitely.
Yep.
The cut-off age is 65.
Yep.
Yeah, you certainly
So
wouldn't even
still eligible.
wouldn't even be the oldest reservist infantryman or infantry soldier that we have.
When I was at Kapooka early last year, there were 15 guys probably older than that. So definitely.
Yeah, when I went through Kapooka, we had a 50-year-old gentleman on my recruit course.
Yeah, great. So 37 definitely not too old. So Kylie's asked a good question. I'm a parent of 4 children. How would Army apply to me? How do you make it work, Amy, as a single mum?
It fits in around my family and also my civilian employment. But then also I choose to go away on exercises throughout the year. So several times a year I might be away for 2-week blocks. But with technology I'm able to FaceTime my daughter and my family constantly. There's plenty of opportunity so that I can keep in contact with them.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's all,
oh, sorry.
you choose to do it, you don't have to do it, you don't have to go away.
Yeah, yeah. And do you guys find that there's the flexibility for yourselves with your family and personal lives and all that sort of stuff with the Army Reserves?
Generally, yeah. So if you're out in the field, less so. But if you're on course or somewhere there's access to internet, definitely. In terms of flexibility, my experience is the Army is very flexible around family. So it helps having a supportive family and a supportive wife or partner to make that possible for sure. But the Army understands that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, great. So guys, we're getting a lot of medical questions coming through, and unfortunately we're not going to be able to answer those live here, but if you want to speak to our medical team, you'll need to start an application process and go through that channel. So unfortunately we won't get to those questions, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to pronounce this right, sorry. Joellen has asked, is it alright if you don't know how to swim? Is being able to swim a prerequisite?
Swimming is part of your basic. At Kapooka, you do have to do a swim test.
Yeah.
But the Army swim test is a very, very simple and basic swim test.
Yeah.
Yeah. So usually someone with a couple of swimming lessons under their belt would usually be able to pass that. But I think it is really important that people can swim when they join the Army, because it is, for example, I was on a Navy ship for a couple of months, so it's really important that you're able to swim if you want to do those sort of jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So Josh has asked, do you stay in the state/country, or are you constantly moving around? You guys are all 3 Tassie locals, so no.
Yeah.
So Rowan, you can join the Army Reserves and you'll stay.
Yeah, exactly. Apart from deployments, obviously, where I lived in Darwin for a couple of months, I was based in Hobart. I've always worked in Hobart. It's a 15-minute drive for me to get to to where I work from home. So it's been great. I've bought a house in Hobart, and I'm very, very committed to staying in Hobart. And the Army Reserve is definitely okay with that.
Yeah. Great. So Meki has asked, what are the hours during the week as a part-time reservist? And you had sort of touched on that, Josh, of 7 to 10, or case by case basis, but normally about 3 hours.
Generally, yeah. So most of the time you'll pray on the Tuesday nights, although some units are also Wednesday nights. Generally, it does change by unit, but 1 week in a month roughly you'd be expected to parade, and usually that's like a concentrated training period as well. So they're your standard commitments and hours, and then there's scheduled training blocks or deployments or other opportunities on top of that if you wish to take them.
Mm-hmm. Great.
The advantage of that is that when you do have to go away for a course or something like that, you get door to door. So they pay for you to get to the airport. Army pays for you for all your accommodation, all your incidentals while you're away, and then that also bring you right back to your door when you finish your course as well. So it's definitely something that it doesn't really matter where you live. They're going to support you to make sure that you can get to where they need you to train, because obviously some training needs to be done in certain centres.
Yeah. Fabulous. So Cody's asked a great question, and this is going to be to all 3 of you. What's been your favourite experience so far? Amy?
I guess my favourite experience so far would be going to Talisman Sabre. It's a big exercise that we have every 2 years, and just learning new things and meeting new people. So Marines come over and a whole heap of other countries, and just working alongside different nationalities, meeting so many new people. That's definitely a highlight for me.
Yeah. Josh, it's only been almost 2 years, but what's your favourite experience for you?
It has been short. In that time, though, in September, I had the opportunity to go to the Murray Bridge training area in South Australia, and I was acting as a section commander for a group of Army cadets for a little bit over a week, and that was a fantastic experience for me as part of my training to actually to look after a section and work them through that week and then see them progress through that as well. So that was really rewarding and fantastic opportunity.
Yeah. So I probably have two great experiences. The first one is snorkeling on Christmas Island, which was just awesome. Very sunburnt, of course. that was great. But from an Army perspective, definitely some of the major exercises I've been involved in with working alongside full-time soldiers, the reserve units working as part of the same team, getting out there and doing the job, doing the infantry job, and for a couple of weeks was great. Yeah, that's something that I've really enjoyed, working to a very high standard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. So Rodney's asked, what does your civilian employer think about you being in the reserves?
So mine's extremely supportive.
Yeah.
They encourage me to go away because they know I come back with new skills.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so I work for BDO and they're super supportive. An accounting firm does have its busy periods, obviously around year-end and tax time and all those sort of things, but between the employer and the Army Reserve both being flexible and understanding, it's working out really well so far.
Yeah, and yeah, same with me as well. The ability to give a lot of notice for what I'm doing is great, because the Army does publish the courses that it's running quite far in advance. So you're able to work with your employer to make sure that you come to an agreement as to when you can go and do different things. Yeah, which is great. They also have there's different policies that different employers that I've had in the past have had regarding leave time and things like that, and making sure that you're not disadvantaged for going on Army courses and things like that. So there's definitely companies are definitely very supportive. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So Mark has asked, what kind of training is involved in becoming an Army officer? And once again, we were lucky enough to spend some time with Josh and Ingie earlier talking about exactly that. So we might cut to that footage now.
Hi guys, I'm here with Officer Cadet Josh and we're just overlooking Derwent Barracks. So Josh, can you tell us what corps is your preferred corps?
So for me it's the infantry corps. The infantry is the Army's frontline combat corps. So as an infantry platoon commander, I was spending a lot of time out in the field. And for me in my training so far, I've really enjoyed that. It's provided a lot of challenges compared to my civilian life. So I thought I'd had an idea of what tiredness was and sleep deprivation was before that, but it turns out I don't. So it's really fantastic, and it's also a good excuse to keep fit and to force myself to keep fit. The fitter you are, the less painful it's going to be when you are outfield, and the better and more effective you can be at doing your job.
Sounds pretty good. And so can you tell us about corps selection and how it works and whether or not it's different in the Army Reserves compared to full-time?
So it's pretty much the same for full-timers and Army Reserve. So all the officer cadets will put in their corps preferences throughout their training. When they get to the end, so when they complete their final block at the Royal Military College, Duntroon, they're all ranked based on their performance throughout the training. So what then happens is the performance and that person's suitability for those roles is also considered along with what roles are available in the areas that they've applied for.
Okay, great. So earlier today we spent some time at the WETS facility. So can you tell us what WETS stands for and basically what it is?
Absolutely. So the WETS is the Weapons Training Simulation System, and what it is it's a virtual range. So without leaving the base, we can go and practice our weapons handling drills, our marksmanship principles and our fire control orders. It's all done using real weapons, however instead of using live or blank ammunition, it's done using lasers. So it provides some fantastic training outcomes. It's all operated, the system's interactive, and also provides feedback in our performance during the training as well.
Okay, great. And how often do you say you would go to the WETS facility as an officer cadet?
So as an officer cadet, it will vary. In the last year or so, I've been to the WETS perhaps 10 times, both here and on the mainland. We also have another WETS here on base, which is an artillery WETS. So as an officer cadet, we've had the opportunity twice in the last year to go and practice our all-arms call for fire, which is where we practice calling in artillery support, and that's done in conjunction with a local artillery battery here as well, which is also a reserve unit. So it's a fantastic training tool as a whole for us.
Would you say that the infantry corps is kind of reduced to going to the wets solely, or other roles maybe?
No, not at all. So certainly infantry will probably use it more given their role in the army, but other corps will get the opportunity from time to time to use it as well. And that'll include other trades, cooks and things like that will also get that opportunity. In addition to that, reservists completing their recruit training at Kapooka will get the opportunity to use the wets as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Josh.
No worries.
Great. Now, Josh, could you take us through a bit more about the Army Officer Employment Training and about that process?
Absolutely. So, to become a General Service Officer or a GSO, you'll be commissioned as a lieutenant. So to do that, you go through a training program called the FAC, which is the First Appointment Course. So that course is structured. It's run by RMC or Royal Military College Duntroon, and then administered through various university regiments around Australia. So there's 5 rigid residential blocks of training that you have to do. So block 1 is Kapooka, which is 35 days. Then block 2 and 3 are 16-day courses each. Block 4 is 3 weeks, and the final block 5 is a month at RMC Duntroon in Canberra, where if you're successful, then you receive your commission as a lieutenant. So in addition to that, and in conjunction with that as well, there are 2 field activities or major exercises per year, which go for 2 weeks. They're generally in Murray Bridge in South Australia. There is also around about 10 or 11 training weekends throughout the year, like most reservists do. But ours are specifically for officers and learning those officer skills as we go. There's also some non-residential components, including military history, ethics, and all those sort of things.
Okay, great. And with those 5 training blocks, how long do you have to complete them? Is there a set time or?
Yeah, so the minimum time you could probably get them done is between 18 months and 2 years. If you were to go nearly back to back, it'd be quite full on. I'm not sure, but I think the maximum time period is about 4 or 5 years to get it done. So there is a lot of flexibility there as well to make it work around your lifestyle.
Yeah, great. Okay. So William's asked a question here. Do you need to go through your U session to become a reservist, a reserved army soldier? And the answer is yes, you will. But what I might ask is, can you guys give any advice to people going through the application process right now? What should they do while going through the process?
Be very sure of your why. So know exactly why you want to be in the Army Reserve. So what motivates you? Are you sure you want to do this? Do you know where your training is and what your role is? I think it's probably the most important one.
Definitely research roles so you know what you want to do, and even if you don't have some idea behind what you want to do.
Yep.
And fitness.
Yep. And fitness. Yep. Anything else, or you think?
I think that's covered most of it. Just go in there and really apply yourself in the U session. Hopefully the job will come out that you really want to do.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. Now Zachary's asked a question. So he said, I filled out my application to join the reserves as a rifleman to see how I like it, then maybe transfer to full time. However, I haven't submitted it yet as I'm nervous about the aptitude test. Do you guys have any advice on that? And is there a website or app to practice the test on?
So definitely Google ACER test, ACER, and there should be practice tests that come up that will be able to assist you with the aptitude test.
Yeah.
You can definitely get better at them over time with training them and practicing them. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've got, just speak about the other part of his question, if he wants to join the reserves first. I've had probably 5 or 6 soldiers from my unit that have all gone full time. And they found that the experience they've got from the reserves has really helped them in their full-time roles, and they're loving it. Yeah, and they're really glad they did the reserves first.
Yeah. Okay, great answers. Sammy has asked, does the pay stay the same on deployment? Do you get paid more while you're on deployment?
Yeah, so deployment pay is different depending on what sort of deployment you do, but there's usually things like you get an extra allowances for different sorts of hard living. If you're staying away from running water, or if you're on rations and things like that, there's extra allowances that you are paid for being away, and there's also specific allowances for different areas of the world that you might go to as well, or if you're based at sea and things like that. So Australian soldiers are quite well paid. Considering compared to some other countries, and that's definitely an advantage of being an Australian soldier.
Yeah. So, answer is yes, but case by case on where you are. So Jimmy's asked, how does promotion work in the reserves and how long does it take to get promoted?
It depends on how long it takes and what you want to promote to. So to go from a private to a lance corporal depends on your unit and also your qualifications. So you need to make sure you do your initial employment training, and that's making sure that you're up to Army standards. And then once you've done that, if your hierarchy thinks that you're okay, they'll send you off or nominate you to start
Start the courses.
Promotion courses.
The promotion
yeah.
courses.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Okay, great. So Matthew's asked a question here. What is the best job if you're interested in guns? I think Rowan might know the answer to that question.
Being an infantry soldier gets you qualified on a wide range of weapon systems. And not only that, it allows you to use them on a pretty regular basis as well. So we use things from the F-88 Stye that everyone would know, which is obviously the standard rifle. We also have a range of machine guns that we get qualified on as well, and then there's also some bigger things like some anti-tank weapons and things like that as well that we get qualified on, which are really good fun. Yeah, excellent.
Okay, right. Well, keeping with the infantry soldier questions, Kane has asked, with regards to an infantry soldier in the reserves, what does the average night consist of, and what are the tasks they would perform when they work the extra days? Can you work during the day, or is it only evenings? So I guess first question, what does an average night look like for a rifleman?
Yeah, so an average night as a rifleman's usually you start off with a bit of physical training. You might do a session with your unit about some sort of different training styles, and then usually we go into some training depending on the night. Sometimes there might be some jobs that need to be done, some administrative jobs that need to be done, like you might need to, for example, clean some weapons from the weekend before, or you might need to check your quantities of different equipment, but usually you get out there and you do some personal training, like some training around the different weapon systems you qualified on, or you might go out and practice drills like an ambush drill, or how to perform a section attack, which are all the bread and butter of the infantry unit.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
And I think an important note is that whilst full-time infantry soldiers, we are full, we are recruiting infantry soldiers part-time. So if you're interested in becoming an infantry soldier, have a look at the units recruiting local to you.
Yeah. One more thing I
Yeah,
forget to mention was definitely after knockoff there's a really big social life in the reserves, and usually most people will spend half an hour or even up to an hour after the parade is finished talking and spending time with each other. Barbecues put on every night and things like that, so it's definitely pretty good to hang out afterwards as well and really get to know the people you work with.
Yeah, okay, great. So Tasha has asked, can you apply to be based at a different unit than the one you are closest to once you've finished IETs, so initial employment training?
Definitely.
Yeah, whatever's most convenient for you. For example, we're obviously based in the south of the state at the moment, but I've had times in my career I've had to work out of the north of the state, so I've gone to different units up there and performed the same work duties of a night that I would do in Hobart, and I've had plenty of colleagues do that from both up north and the south as well. It's just whatever's convenient for you. As long as you work it out with your chain of command, there's definitely a good opportunity to do that.
Okay, great. So Sophia's asked a question, and this will be for you, Amy. What is it like being a woman within the reserves? Have you had to overcome any hurdles, stigma, stereotypes, or different treatment due to being a female?
Definitely not. No, the guys are respectful, and I'm treated as one of them. Yeah. If there's something I don't like, which I don't think there ever would be, they would soon turn it around or change it to make sure I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But I've never encountered any issues, nor have I had any troubles with anyone.
Yeah. Okay, great. So Nathan has asked a great question. What's the best part about being in the Army Reserves? Josh, let's start with you.
Well, definitely the friends and the mateship. So, like I mentioned before, a lot of our friends come from the people you hang out with and you work with, and it's very social and you're all like-minded. But also taking that a step further and really getting into teamwork. So I remember my first morning at Kapooka, I thought I could make the bed in that time frame they give you, which is not much, in no time at all. It'll be a piece of cake. It turns out it's a lot harder than that. So you're forced to really work as a team, otherwise you just will not get those tasks done. And that's something that you don't necessarily learn outside of the army world, but you're seeing learn the hard way in the army world.
Yeah. And what about yourself, Ryan?
Yeah, I find the break from the routine is excellent. That's something that I really enjoy now, is getting out and doing something different from my day-to-day job. You know, you're stuck in an office through the day, there's four walls, things like that, and then you get out a Tuesday night or on a weekend, and or even a longer time period, and you can really get in there and enjoy what you're doing, and really dig into that sort of experiences that are quite different from anything you'd experience in your ordinary life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the same. For me, it's kind of an escape. I come in on a Wednesday night and I do something completely different to what I do in the normal world, and the guys that I work with are amazing, and you're always growing and learning. So on a Wednesday night we do a formal parade, and from the newest private that marches in to the senior corporal, we all take turns to stand in front of our group and call the commands.
Mm-hmm.
And it's courage and confidence, and something that I'd never have done outside of this.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I actually have a question off the back of that. There's a great question that's been asked by Lana about skills, and I guess I want to know, what do you think are some of the skills that you guys have picked up in the Army Reserves that you didn't join having, or maybe didn't expect to learn over your time in the reserves?
Definitely time management and organisation will be the two biggest skills that I've picked up.
Yeah.
Definitely, if you look at school reports and things like that from before I joined the army, there was a lot of he forgot his maths homework, didn't do this, didn't do that. So and the ability for me now, after a few years in the Army Reserve, to be able to finish a finance degree remotely, so not going to campus at all, being really reliant on getting home and structuring your time and being organised with your deadlines, is something that Army's definitely taught me, and I'm very grateful for that experience.
It's a major thing, self-discipline. I was the same up until this. Time management was not really there for me.
Yeah.
But now that I've been within defence, it's a skill that I've learned and also put into place.
Mm-hmm. What about yourself, Tom?
Probably confidence. So one of my first parades I ever went to, hadn't even been to Kapooka yet. Our warrant officer stood up and said, "Okay, you talk about this for 5-10 minutes." And I thought, "Oh, okay." Off you go. But you're forever uncomfortable and forced to adapt to that and grow as a result.
Yeah, great. We've talked a lot about the best experiences. What's been your most challenging experience so far in the Army Reserves, do you think, Amy?
Challenging is possibly being pushed to your limits, so outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
But then also afterwards being able to look back and know that you've achieved it. So at Kapooka, I'm not really a fan of heights, and doing the high wire course and the abseiling was probably not very comfortable for me. I didn't like it at all, but achieving it and overcoming it was a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
Probably with the officer training, everything you do is being analysed and it's being watched, and you're forever getting feedback. So you can never be perfect, and you're always striving and being pushed to achieve and be the best you can. And that's both really, really challenging, because there's always more and more things you have to be thinking about, but at the same time, quite rewarding when you do learn those little things along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the training you do as an infantry soldier gets quite challenging. I've definitely had times where you're cold, you're wet, you're really tired, and that happens, and that is part of it. But the ability to get through that and get back and have a beverage or two with your mates afterwards and talk about it and go through that, it definitely makes it all worth it. And the experiences you get after the fact, you're always really grateful for them. Yeah.
Great. So Samir has asked, is it worth doing the ADF gap year, or do you believe it's better to go straight into reserves, especially if you want to become an officer?
It's a tough question, and it will probably depend on what works for her and for other people considering that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about the ADF gap year, but certainly if you want to become an officer and you want to become a reserve officer, you do have that out. So if you don't like it, because there's no minimum period of service, you can always just say, no, it's not for me. So you might as well have a go.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, then you can walk away. And if you do like it, well, you're in luck.
Yeah, yeah. So both are great options. So, do a bit of research on both and see what works for you.
To a recruiter at DFR, I'm sure they'd be able to give you some advice as to the pros and cons of each. And
yeah,
go from there.
absolutely. So Dylan has asked, is it easy to switch from part-time to full-time? We've sort of covered that one. I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's definitely a possibility where possible. So keep the questions coming in, guys. We've only got about 5 more minutes, so we'll try and get to all the ones we have still. So Melissa, I want to be a driver specialist. Is that a part-time role offered as a driver?
Yep.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep. Ton has asked, what roles do you have for those that are specialised in data, analytics and research? So I'll take that. If you jump onto Defence Jobs and have a look under our comms and IT, you'll be able to find some different roles available to you in the Army Reserves. So jump on there, Ton. Sorry, there's so many questions. Sorry. Education requirements. What are the educational requirements for joining the Army Reserves? Different for officer and general entry, but can you take us through for general entry?
So general entry is a minimum requirement of year 12 English and math, but you said it was different for your role?
Year 10.
Year 10
Yeah.
English
Year 10.
and math.
Year 10.
Yeah,
No,
it's
that's
actually,
okay.
there's some roles that it's only year 9, so that gives you the ability to start the application process at 16 and a half or at 17, which is great for some people, yeah.
Yep. And for officer?
So for officers, it's year 12 English and Maths, and most, but not all, have a degree or will be working towards it as well.
Yep. Okay, great. So Josh has asked, how do you mix uni and reserve work? Or I guess any personal commitments and reserve work?
Yeah, you definitely have your priorities as well,
Yeah.
and that's something that your command structure will go through with you to make sure that you've got your priorities set up and they know where Army sits in that priority list, because everyone's different. Everyone's got different things that need to be do. The way I organise it is, my first priority is my family. Second priority is my work and my study equally, and then my third priority is Army. So I need to make sure that once those first 3 are looked after, that I can look after Army as well. And I find that works really well. There's opportunities to head off and do courses outside of semester time. Even if you're doing 3 semesters a year, there's still time in the middle of the year where you can get out there and do it, and through summer as well, where you can do courses and things like that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you guys so much for sending through your questions, and if we didn't get to them, we will definitely do our best to answer them at a later date. But thank you guys so much for your time tonight, and thank you guys out there. So keep posted on our upcoming Facebook Lives, but we will be live Friday the 23rd of February from our Melbourne ADF Careers Expo.